Hello and welcome to the Sign and Thrive podcast for notaries. I'm your host, Bill Soroka. If you've ever felt like you should be more consistent with your marketing or wondered what it really takes to build a business you can be proud of, you're in the right place. My guest today is Victor Diaz, owner of Andre Mobile Notary Service in the Houston, Texas area. Welcome, Victor. Thank you for making time for me and our audience today.
Well, thank you. I'm pretty honored, Bill, that you asked. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's the honor's mine. You are one of the most, if not the most consistent contributors inside our high performance notary community on the school platform. And I just want you to know um, that from a coach and from a teaching perspective, how much I appreciate you for not just taking knowledge or consuming knowledge, but actually taking it, implementing it, and then, of course, shining the light back behind you so other notaries can learn from your experience too. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Oh, I thank you for that. I thank for everything I get from this, so I appreciate it.
I also wanted to share something with you today that I've never shared with you or anyone else for that matter. You have a special significance with me and with HPN, and I without even knowing it. It was a year ago in March, and I believe it was March 14th. So nearly probably to the day that this episode releases to the public, where you joined High Performance Notary, and you were the very last annual subscription I sold because I wasn't sure HPN would work. I didn't know if there was enough notary entrepreneurs with the hustle or hungry enough to do the actual work behind the scenes that it takes to build this business. I was hesitant because, through these 10 years, I've learned that everyone wants to be a six-figure notary until it comes to doing the work, the actual work that a six-figure notary has to do without pomp and circumstance, parades, and applause, right? So I gave myself until March 14th, 2026 to see if it would work, if there were enough people interested in this kind of commitment. And I wanted to give myself that 1 year because of you, so I could close the community if I had to with integrity after fulfilling your entire year of coaching and mentorship in the community. And I'm so grateful that it has worked. We have over 2,000 members in there now, hundreds that take it seriously and show up on a regular basis. And you've been an anchor and an inspiration to so many in that community, even me. And I can't think of a better person to have on my calendar. I mean, you're on my calendar on March 14th as my potentially very last student. And I love that it has gone the right direction and I can share this journey with you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I am honored. It was a life-changing decision for me. You have no idea how much I appreciate that this existed just as I was starting to look. It's just like everything fell into place for me. So I am honored. Thank you.
It's that synchronicity word that we tend to use a lot inside
Oh,
HPN, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. I don't know how much of what happened that I've actually told you, but I was in the hospital at the time that I joined.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, I had a relapse of my condition, and I'm in the hospital, and I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do because I knew from that point on that I would either have to be under permanent disability or retire. And I knew that the one business I love that I can still do after leaving my job would be the notary work, which I've been doing for well over 30 plus years. So and I love it. I'm honored with it. It's something in my blood with it. And I was trying to decide. I said to myself while I was in bed, and I can still remember the day. And I says, and I'm saying to myself, I need to make this work, but I don't know how to do it. And I need to find the right people with the right background, with the right success that are not, don't blow any smoke or all the fluff and all of that, and not be there'd be no meat there for me to work with. And I'm saying to myself, and I remember seeing your name, that of Laura, many times in the past with articles or statements made at NNA and stuff like that. And I says, I've known about his name and I known about that he's that he's well to do on it. So I decided to look you up. And I found your book and I started to read. Then it mentions, I started to mention the your courses and all of that. So I decided to look at the course of certified notary trust delivery, and I signed up for that right away. And then I stumbled across HPN, and and I says, you know what? Let me take a jump here. I think I know what this means. I think I know what it's for. I'm not sure, but if he is the one managing it, and perhaps I'm going to get something out of it, and be able to learn how to market my business. And that was the best decision I've ever made. To
Mm.
this day, I wake up every day and appreciate it, and that's why I work so hard to contribute to it, because it's my way of paying back.
Yeah, and we're all so grateful for that. And I love just your approach to how you find somebody that you uh, learn from. Because one of the most expensive lessons I've learned is that you uh, learn from people who have the results that you want. Because it is in this day and age, information age, YouTube, podcast, whatever it is, everybody can get a microphone and start sharing things, but not everybody has the results that you're looking for. So I appreciate your response there. And I want to talk a little bit about that because when you look back at the version of yourself in a hospital bed, going through the grief of what you have to leave behind and trying to figure out what you're going to create next when you joined High Performance Notary, what changed most in how you think and operate?
Uh, First then, I've come to realize that I can allow my situation to slow me down or not do it. I mean, I have every excuse possible, and nobody can really put me down, can say that I'm wrong, but I have every excuse to just take life easy. I mean, I barely could see, and I've improved a lot since, but I have my problem with my vision. I have a pain, other conditions within my body related to this, to all of this, and that I have reasons to stay lounging, reading, just doing, but I wanted to do something with my business. I wanted to do something with myself. So the first thing I realized, getting on to HPN, learning, seeing the courses, reading your books, and so forth, I realized I can still do this business despite my limitations, despite what I couldn't do. I can see well enough to look at a document. I can speak. You know,
You're
I
good at
meet
that.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can speak, and I can think, and so forth. So what I needed to learn is how do I approach this? How do I market myself? How do I get known, and so forth. And from the very beginning, those are the things you focus on. Is what do you need to do to get yourself known? The first, the very first thing that pops out to me as learning from HPN and from your courses and so forth, and which has been valuable for me, is the concept of top of mind. Top of mind, making sure that people remember who you are. Even people who like you and used you the first time will forget you and we'll go somewhere else. But if I'm top of mind, they're going to call me, and that was one of the most impactful things I've learned, from early on in the course, that I made sure I started contacting people, and so forth. I learned how to ask for referrals, reviews unabashedly. You know, going out, I learned how to be enthusiastic and yet controlled and so forth, because my objective is to be top of mind, not to overwhelm, not to oversell, but to just simply have people remember me. And that has been impactful. So yeah, from that time to today, I've learned how to manage myself, more so, and I've always been good at that. And I've learned how to market myself, how to share my information, how to be known, how to talk to every single person in sight, all of this, and more, I can say that I've actually changed things. So, and I got more to tell you. So, don't, if I start getting overly excited, you might have to give me a little sign to say slow down a little bit.
No, well, I knew this was going to happen. We're two of probably of the most enthusiastic people I think most people know. You're excited about things, I'm excited about things, and I live for it. So we can take it and run with it. But you brought up a really good point because you mentioned you have all the check boxes, the proper excuses that if you wanted to slow down, if you wanted an excuse to quit or not to do the work, you have all those. But still you move on. And you are one of the most consistent marketers that I have gotten to witness just in because we're in the community together, I get to see it. But how do you actually um, feel motivated? But also, what do you do on the days to get yourself out there when you don't feel motivated? Because motivation is like a mood, it comes and it goes. So, what do you do on the days when you just don't want to?
Well, I've come to realize that I have limitations in my energy, and when there's no energy, that affects um, motivation, and vice versa. If you're motivated, you tend to find energy. So they go hand in hand for me. They're, like for example, I may get up in the morning and I'll have energy for maybe 1 or 2 hours, and then after that I crash, and I literally do crash. I just simply I'm unable to perform. I can't think as clearly as I would wish. I have to take naps and so forth, or distract myself with something else. So I may have a window of time. So what I've learned is to block my time, is to have set up a set of block time in which I'm going to do my business, and so that as long as I consistently work in that period of time where I have the most amount of energy and get something accomplished, then that encourages me for my next set of next block of time. And so when I'm relaxed, I don't have to. I like you're saying, give yourself grace and space. Well, I
Mhm.
give myself grace because when I'm finished with the 1 to 3 hour block of time and I've accomplished much of my things to do, and I take the break, I am not hurting myself. I'm not putting myself down. I'm relaxing. I'm thinking of other things. I might talk to somebody, a friend, my family, whatever. I may sleep. And when I wake up and I feel energized again, I'm going for my second block of time. And now I'm energized. I'm ready for my second block of time. It may last an hour. It may last 2 or 3 hours. I don't know. It just depends on how I feel, but I'm at it again. And I may have a period, there are days when I'll have one block of time in which I can do the business. And there are other periods of time where I may have up to 3 times during the course of the day where I have really, really powerful periods of time to do my work, you see. And then the beauty of this is that if I have a block of time to do the work, but it is circumvented or replaced by a customer, man, that's even better, you know, because then the appointment I put it in there, and I put my appointments at times when I know I should be energized because of experience already. So that's the best time to put my appointments, and it's even better, so I give myself grace, which is important, and and I refocus. And if I get discouraged, if I get to a point where I feel like, why do this? I start to go over the HPN, listening to the comments, different threads of comments and what's going on, and I make my comments and so forth. And I get busy trying to help some of the friends about some of the things they're enduring, and I make encouraging remarks. Well, when I'm working to encourage others within the community, I'm encouraging myself. I'm building myself up. I'm getting more energy, and so there's
Yeah.
many things I can do.
Well, and you have a couple of points I want to touch on there, but with that last one, I think is huge. Um, I think one of the big human drivers in this life experience is contribution. When we contribute into other people, when we pour into others, it helps energize us too. And I think that's kind of the magic. I've heard some feedback about requiring engagement in the community, and it's because we need to feel like we contribute and make a difference in other people's lives, and it does light us up so much in there.
Hmm. Yeah, agreed. In fact, when I'm discouraged, some of the comments, I go back to some of the older comments and and it's encouraging to see, especially when, you know what, that's also very encouraging is when some of the people that have come in at the time I've come in and how they have grown, how they, Cynthia, um, I can't think of the names, Michelle. I mean, there's
Georgina, yeah,
Georgina.
yeah,
I call Georgina my little sister because she reminds me of my actual little sister. She has the courage, she has the desire, but she has her struggles just like everybody else, and so forth. And sometimes she has to muster up the her her confidence and so forth like that. But to see how much she's grown, to see how much Cynthia, for example, how she's doing the business, listening to her comment about the things she's now doing. And although she puts herself down by saying, "Oh, I haven't been able to do this," I sometimes forget that some of these friends don't remember what they have already accomplished, what
mhm.
they're doing, which makes me feel like wanting to do more. And so when I go on HPN, it is for not, for me to build myself up and to build other people up, and that is a fantastic formula. I don't know if you really thought that out or not, Bill. If you did, I must give you far more credit because this is an intelligent way of doing it. But it is wild. I mean, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and it is. It's a beautiful thing to have this sense of community, but also a structured community, so it doesn't turn into some random Facebook group, right? Where people are just asking off the wall questions and giving off the wall answers or something. This is truly crafted and designed in a certain way, but it only works because our members make it work. They engage, they participate, and they share, right? So it is beautiful to watch this all the way around because
Facebook. By the way, I'm in a couple of Facebook groups that for notaries,
yeah.
and I should get myself out of them because in reality, unlike the community, you'll get too many negative comments and put
Yes.
downs because somebody is asking a question and supposedly they should know already. No, people are at different levels,
Yeah.
and so they're many times I get discouraged when I see it because they put themselves down. But that's not in this community. Everybody looks to bring up everybody else, and everybody is respectful, professional. This is far ahead of any other group that I am aware of.
And I think you bring up a really good point that I'm passionate about. I've been saying this for years because there is positive leadership and there's negative leadership in in the world and then in our industry as well, right? But there are some that lead with negativity. They poke fun of people, they tear people down, they're quick to anger, or they foster it in the community. If that brings you down, and this is for our listeners too, right, Victor? It's like, leave it. There's plenty of positive ones too. This is one of the most loving and supportive industries I've ever been a part of. There are loving and supportive communities that will support you and raise you up. And when you find that, it's almost impossible to go anywhere else because you'll lock on. But part of growth is eliminating what's holding you back. And if you log into a Facebook community or whatever community and you feel that little knot in your stomach, like, oh, I can't believe I'm watching somebody talk to somebody that way. Leave it, block it, eliminate that negativity from your experience and focus on, because this business is hard enough, Victor,
Mm-hmm.
without being dragged down by negativity on that
Agree.
too. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing that I wanted to circle back to is, when you're talking about how you structure your day. And I love that you work with your energy levels. I have to do the same thing for my own health reasons and mental health reasons. But you talk specifically about taking action. And I know in part of our community, we have this a clear structured daily dues and the habit structure. But what I'm hearing is that, you taking action every day, even when you don't want to, creates the actual motivation to keep going. You can still rest and take your naps and hang out with your family and do those things, but it keeps you fired up to go in and then start your second block. Can you talk a little bit about how you prioritize what those activities are? Like what's the first thing you do in the day?
Okay. Actually, this is again one of the real gifts of the of HPN and the courses we have and the daily dues and the practice that we have and so forth. Um, for example, um, we have the Sunday success meeting where we discuss and plan for the week coming. And I love the statement, no wasted weeks, you know. And so that helps me plan. And although I may be repeating certain things that I do from week to week to week, those are the core of what I have to do. So that's why they may be repetitious, but I plan other things, other activities around that. The fact that I have it planned, the fact that I know what to do, I have clarity. The result is that when I'm going to have just that precious 1 hour to do my work, I don't have to try to figure out what I need to do. I already know what I need to do, and I work to get it done. I try not to distract myself when stuff like you know um, reading stuff or doing more research than I need to or whatever. I don't have the time for that. I had to learn that. If I'm going to find three more people to put on my fabulous 200 list, well, I am not going to waste my time more than 5 minutes on any one client to learn who they are before I send out my email. And if I'm going to add you to my list, you will be getting an email as soon as I add you, once I find out who you are. Because why add it to your list and not touch it and not get back to it? So as soon as I find you, I add you to my list. I find out who you are, what keywords I can use, get that email out, and there it goes. Now it's done. And I do that within an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours, depending. And so the most important thing is first already have planned what you need to do, so you have clarity, so you know where you need to be. Then, as soon as you sit down, if you're going to work, work. Don't stop to do, like, for example, go on social media or something like that. Don't waste your time with your emails unless they're critical to a glance, like maybe uh, you know 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or a half hour at the most, and glance at all your emails, get those out of the way, but get to the real work and work. Do not give yourself an excuse. In fact, there are times when I do things to myself for the purpose of making sure I get it done. If I need to eat something because I'm now hungry, or if I need to go to the restroom and I still have an email to do, guess what? I say to myself, if I want to reward myself, if I want that piece of candy or whatever, I'm going to first get that email out so that I can go get it and not feel guilty.
Hmm.
So I give myself reasons to do it, and then I get that email out, and it's out and it's gone. That phone call is done, and so having clarity, and that's the one beautiful thing about what we learn in HPN is being clear on what needs to be done and not being vague. I see.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I hope you don't mind my saying this, but I see sometimes when our friends put their things to do, it's not clear enough. It doesn't really say what they truly need to do. It is too vague, too open, too wide, too broad. Oh, I'm going to work on my contacts. But what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Does it mean research, or does it mean calling, sending a card, saying thank you, or what does it mean? And how many are you going to do? I'm going to reach out to my clients. Well, how many? Is it just going to be one, two, three, or 10? you know so not being specific, there's no clarity, then you might not get as much done as you need to, or nothing done.
Absolutely. And that's a key. And this level of um, distillation, getting down to the nitty gritty, that specific and that disciplined is a skill. It's like a muscle that has to be built because most of us are not taught this, and definitely not taught in a way where we have some structure and we can get some feedback. You know, it's like I use the example of a notary who's been doing this for 30 years, but they've been doing it the wrong way because nobody's ever given them feedback, right? So they don't know that they're doing it the wrong way. We've been going through life with just kind of what we picked up along the way sometimes as a kid, and then we're figuring things out, but nobody gives us feedback on how to restructure and refine our days and our prioritization on this. And I think our community makes room for that. But I want to talk to you about your experience with this specifically too, because I know when you first came into HPN and you got used to the structure and starting to do the daily prospecting, that was not something that was totally ingrained in you yet. And results were slower for you. So I wonder if you can talk about like how long it took you to build the discipline to push through the hard days when you were seriously like, God, is this even working? And those types of things.
Um, Well, there's several things, and it's true. I had to learn to discipline myself, and I think that's key for anybody. You got to be disciplined. Otherwise, if you're wishy-washy, you're going to be moved by everything that happens, your mood, energy, and so forth. You're not going to get everything done. You're not going to get as much as what you should get done on a minimum basis to get your business growing. So, yeah, I had to learn how to be consistent knowing I need to do this many and so forth. And although email is great, it has its disadvantage whereby pop-ins and other contact methods can be even more powerful at times. But I had to work with emails and phone calls because I'm limited in my ability to go out on my own.
Yeah.
And so I can't drive, and so forth. So I had to be consistent, knowing that what I have in front of me that I can do is emailing, and and fortunately through HBN I had the basic email structure and series of emails that needs to be sent to a client. As I got to learn the industry better and using AI, which I also learned through HBN, I was able to qualify my emails and my clients better and get my emails to be just slightly better in terms of what should be said to the different clients and so to the different prospects, so that my emails became better, more precise. Now, I will admit this, because I was pretty much relying on email. There were it I think I went up to almost 120 days with literally no response. Sometimes feeling like I think I may have mentioned sometimes in the
Yeah.
meetings where, I mean, it's dead. Nothing is happening. Why nobody is responding to me? Am I that bad? And so forth. I doubted myself many times, and I would be frustrated because no response. But as I fine tuned it, as I patiently waited, because you kept saying sometimes people don't think of you until they actually need you, and then once they need you and you help them and they get to know you, then things starts to change. All of a sudden, when attorneys started realizing that I can handle certain things, or if I went to a medical facility and I introduced myself, I finally am able to visit personally, and they'll say, "Oh yes, I remember your emails." Well, that meant my emails were actually working. They just haven't responded. They hadn't needed me yet. And so, but it became so discouraging after 120 days. Sending, I started my email process again. Instead, I had 4 emails, and then I had to start all over again, and no response. And then all of a sudden, when they started to respond, then it may sound like I'm bragging all the time in the meetings, but they may not realize that, hey, I spent months no business until I started to get results. And I am riding on that wave of responses because of all the hard work I did prior, you know? And so that motivates me to do it. Bill, I forgot the original question, but I hope I'm on track still on my answer,
No,
Bill.
yeah, you are because well, and it was a multifaceted, and you answered my upcoming question too, because I wanted to know um how you get through those periods when you know you're planting seeds. You can logically convince yourself of that, but emotionally, you're like, oh my God, when are they going to respond? And if you're targeting estate planning attorneys in particular or attorneys in general, it can feel like you're just not getting anywhere. But then there is this turning point. It happened for me. I hear it happening for so many people. It's just the way the universe works. One starts to respond, and it's like they've ignited all the others too. They're like all of a sudden you start getting other ones. They do. They talk to each other in the background, or all of a sudden there's a need in your area for those services.
Mhm.
But
Oh yeah.
how most people quit, Victor. We know this already. Most people would not have had the perseverance to keep going after 120 days of no response. So, what advice do you have to notaries who maybe don't even know this kind of effort's involved, but then when they start, one of my favorite stories was this. I got this dramatic email from this agent who sent an email to every attorney in their city, which was it was actually turned out to only be three, but never got a response and was ready to throw in the towel and quit. So, what kind of advice do you have for people who um, are on the verge of quitting their prospect after their prospecting doesn't work?
Well, firsthand, I would say to continue to interact on HPN and listen in to what people are doing on and that they're finding successful, because sometimes it's a matter of tweaking your efforts and so forth, or how we motivate each other to keep doing working on it and so forth. So plugging in and staying with HPN and following and not just coming in to stay on the wall, so to speak, and just listen and not do anything and just hearing it out. No, it's not going to work. Participate. Uh, you know, I started noticing how my speech changed because I was on HPN. For example, I've always been able to do public speaking. That's not an issue. But my speech changed because now I was learning how to say things in a certain way that attracts people. That's I learned from HBN because of all the contributions there. So where and then with regards to the email, my emails became better, became fine tuned, and so forth. Um, Without any response, I always considered that I needed to visualize in my mind, what am I really looking to do? What do I want? What is my future state would be? I don't want to be like this a year from now. That's the biggest fear. I want next year, this time next year, to be a certain way. And so I would think of these things and visualize in my mind what I really wanted, and that would cause me to continue. And I says, but if I quit now, all that effort is for nothing. I've wasted my time. Why don't I just continue? Because I never know if the next person is who I need to talk to, and stuff like that. It only takes one person to really change what you're doing and reward you for everything you've done. And then and then I also thought about things like, for example, hey, I know that if I can get one attorney to give me 1 to 3 clients a week, which would be fantastic and incredible. But if I can multiply that by finding 3 or 4 attorneys that would give me 1 to 3 clients a week, then that is a business that is sustainable. So I kept visualizing that and realizing that the work I'm doing is what's going to lead to that. Well, then don't quit because you're almost there. And just as sometimes I felt like just, you know what, let me just relax. I'm on disability. I'm going to retire. I have income coming in. I have a family that likes me, and I'm happy to say that. But they like me, and they tried their best to help me. So I didn't have to do it anymore. I says, I just give up. This is all not worth it. But then I realized, hey, it's not what I envision. It's not what I want. It's there's people that are successfully doing it that I can listen to on HPN. The success stories, the failures, and all of that. I'm listening and seeing, and that's what kept me going. One day it just clicked.
It's funny how that works, but you have to be in the arena doing stuff to make
Mm-hmm.
that happen, right? And I'm going to come back to that point as well. But you said something that I love to hear too, is that one person can change everything in your business. And I have learned that and seen that so many times. It's happened for me. Well, I mean, one happenstance, synchronicity connection because we're out there, we're talking to people, right? You talk to everyone about your business, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit too, but you just never know. So I wonder if you do have an experience of your own over the past year, go back further if you want to, but about person, one connection that has changed everything in your business.
Yes, I've mentioned her already. It's a new, relatively new attorney. She's on her own. She's virtual. She has nobody working for her, so she doesn't. She has a virtual office, and she has to arrange her appointments at the hour that the conference rooms are available, because it's a shared facility and stuff like that. And she needs to learn how to market herself more and all of that. Well, that's the person that responded for one of my emails. She needed help with a client that she could not get to. And she remembered my email and she called me up and asked me point blank, says, Victor, this is what I need to do. Are you able to handle that? And I says, yes. Not only can I, go to that person, I can actually schedule it for you and handle all of the logistics and give you a result after that. And I says, and you have no reason to trust me. So if you have a couple of cases that we can do in the office and you can see what I do, then let's do that. And let me show you what I can do in your office in front of you. And she did for 3 clients.
Wow.
When she realized, and then she put a beautiful comment in my reviews in Google Business Profile about how professional, on time, and so forth, and very thorough, and so forth. And then she released the reins recently, where all of a sudden I'm getting all these cases. Whatever she touches, she's involving me, and she's not using anybody else. And so that in itself has been I would say, one of the real opportunities I have, one of the real changes in my business.
Huge. Because you were persistent and you stayed in touch with emails, she finally responded. Like the timing was right. She's like, fine, I'm going to call this Victor guy. And then you
Mhm.
delivered on it, which is so powerful. And you mentioned reviews and that she gave you a review, but you have an interesting and I think most valuable perspective on helping your attorney clients get reviews too. Can you help, or can you
Yeah.
describe how you blend that extra service in?
Well, I realized that she's lacking in marketing and marketing herself, and had very little reviews. And I saw her real good business practice, very thorough, very kind, soft, handles her clients very well. But no one is even saying that, and nobody's going to know that. I know it because I've witnessed it. So I finally told her, "Hey, are you asking for your reviews?" She said, "Yes, I asked, but most time they don't want do anything." I says, "Would you be willing to let me do the follow up on that for you and get you the reviews?" And if you look at my reviews, you'll see I have a few on there. I used to ignore it, and then all of a sudden I learned how to ask for my reviews, and now I have this many. And so she says, "Well, I don't know. I suppose if you can." I says, "Okay, so I'm going to follow up with the clients. If I don't see them that they have put a review, I'm going to send them email from my business saying, how I appreciate your hard work. And do you agree with me? Would you be willing to put a review on behalf of Ms. Zoe?" That's her name. And she's gotten reviews as a result. You see, and then
That's
I
so
told her,
valuable.
can I include you in my emails, because I'm distributing emails, during the trust delivery, financial planning month or whatever it was. I says, can I include you? Can I say something special, like a special offer or whatever? Okay, I'm willing to give an hour free time to consult. She got into it and excited. Said, okay, I'll give you an hour of a free consultation to any client so that they can see if I can really help them. That's more than any other attorney was willing to do. Everybody is 15 minutes, maybe a half hour, but no, an hour. And so I promoted her to no end, and I still do,
Yeah.
you know.
And
That's
that is, I mean, that's a beautiful demonstration. I mean, that's a relationship that's not going anywhere, right? This is,
mhm.
you're way more than a rubber stamp to her. You're a part of her business and workflow processes now. And I just love that you've thought that that big outside the box and she's taken the reins out of it. Now, I
Mhm.
also want to talk a little bit because you've shared so much about your commitment to the daily practices of prospecting and email in particular and staying top of mind. What advice do you have for the notary who isn't completely sold on this idea of prospecting and they just want to throw up a Google business profile and sit back and wait for the phone to ring?
Well, unfortunately, that's not going to work because even if you have a Google profile, you may not get called upon because you have to work on that as well, which is something we learn in HPN as well, is how to optimize your Google profile, and you don't have to, pay out so much money for that. The expense of learning how and so forth is more than reasonable, and so you learn that. But second, that's only one of the many, what would I say, option tools that you have to market yourself. It's only one. You still have you have to make those that the outreach to people individually by email or phone calls or in person. You have to do that because people will not know you. Will not. I mean, I've come across some notaries that do have Google Business Profile, and when they talk to me and they're telling me what they're able to do and not do, and I tell them, well, you're holding yourself back. You're failing to do certain things that should help you get known. And so I says, and I give them the information. I even invite them to the HPN and so forth. And they're afraid. That I think that's, yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the key things is that they're afraid to take that first step. And I'm not sure what's holding them back on that, but that's what I see. So getting yourself known, making yourself known by everybody, anybody, you might not see an immediate result, but I promise you, sometime later, those very same people may remember you, may call you. I had one lady who I had given her my business card, and what she did was she took a picture of it and then gave it back to me. I was at first taken aback because, it didn't make any sense what she did at that moment. But almost a year later, I mean, just about 8 months later, she called me and she says, I had to go through so many pictures to find your business card, but I knew I had it. And I couldn't remember your name, so I couldn't search for you and so forth. And so I've since learned how to make it easier for people to keep my information on their phone. But she found me and I
Yeah.
ended up helping her. So, but if I hadn't stayed quiet, if I had not spoken to her or responded to her in some way, letting her know what kind of business I'm in, I may never have gotten that business.
Never get that. And so one of the things that you are now famous for inside our community is your ability to talk to people in the most unusual circumstances in your everyday life. So whether
Mhm.
that's at uh, department stores when your family's dragging you out shopping, or if it's in medical appointment waiting rooms, hospitals, everything like that. In fact, we have an inside joke inside the community, right? We call it pulling a Victor just because you talk to everyone. Can you share a little bit about your experience about, and maybe a story or two about how connections have happened because you do tell everyone about your
Oh yeah,
business?
yeah. I mean, in fact, you have to remember that this effort of mine was out of real necessity. Because if you're in the house and you can't get out, and you have limit to who you can talk to and so forth, and you want to be in front of somebody, even though my wife and my daughters will drag me out of the house to do, to this day I still do not understand what value do I bring to them when they go to shop for dresses and shoes and stuff like that. I don't see what I give, but they prefer the dad comes or my husband comes with the. So if I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to do my business. I'm going to talk to somebody, and so and I have to kill that fear because I have to remember that these people will need me now or later, and I provide a service that is absolutely necessary in almost anything critically important about life. From contracts to what they need done with their homes, with their family, life and death. stuff like that. A notary is required in almost every single instance. So realizing that I have a value and that what I do is so important gives me a little bit more courage to say something, and then and find ways, and then ask. I learned to ask questions. I learned what kind of questions may generate interest. So I wrote out a list of questions I can ask, and as I started using them, I would modify them until I got them so good that I can remember them and know what to ask. For example, I'm sitting near the fitting room. Fortunately they have a chair for me because I can't stand very long or sit too long. So and I'm asking the lady, hey, do you have a place for me to sit? I'm being dragged here, kicking and screaming, but I'm here because they want to buy dresses. Do you have a place where I can sit? Well, that causes the person to laugh, you know and she finds a seat for me, and I sit down, and my one of the questions says, do you like what you do? Because you look really happy, you look really, you're smiling. And she said, not really. It says, so I'm assuming you wish you can do something more, and so forth. And that led to a conversation, and eventually I said, well, this is what I do, and I love doing it, you know and she says, and I mentioned about trust deliveries, and she said, "Oh, my husband and I are currently talking to an attorney, and we want to do a trust thing. And so you do that?" I said, "Yeah, I do the tail end of it, and I make it comfortable and explain that." And I says, "Just let me know when I can help." Well, guess what? She kept her word. She called me about a week or so afterwards, and we scheduled an appointment, and I went to do the trust delivery. Although she told me the attorney had someone else that was going to do it, and
Oh,
she called me instead. And this is from me sitting at a fitting room, having
yeah.
my wife come out every few minutes to ask me, "What do you think? Do you like this?" I feel like saying, "Honey, no matter what I say, you're the one who decide what you
Mhm.
like and dislike." Anyway, or one other store that my daughters took me out, that I think they don't want me to stay home, and so they took me out to this other store, and the and I sit down, and loss prevention comes over to me to ask me how I'm doing. Why am I sitting near the doorway? I says, "You don't have any other place. You guys don't think about people like me that can't walk around all the time. And I'm the one that's going to pay the bills, by the way. And you don't give me a seat, for me to sit down." I said, "Well, let me get you a better seat." So I'm sitting near the doorway, and they were curious as to why I was there and doing this. And we started conversing. And from that, he then says, "Well, hold on a moment." And he brings another person from loss prevention. He says, "You need to hear this guy for a moment." And he had to go back and replace him. And so I explained what I do and so forth. And the more that we came from that, there was a need there in each of them. And they later became my customers. I ended up doing
Incredible.
business with them later. So wherever I go, if I'm in a doctor's office, you know, anybody I see, I'm going to say, "Hey, do you mind if I give you a business card here in a medical office? Do you mind that?" He says, "No." He says, "Let me tell you what I do." And I give them my business card. Or I get calls, or I make calls while I'm waiting. I'll call a client or a customer, and I say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. I want to pass by to leave my flyer, my business card. I help people with their life documents and so forth." And I make these calls in the waiting room. Of course, they're listening to me. I'm making sure they will
Yeah.
listen to everything I'm saying. And then it says, "Hey, do you guys are concerned about leaving behind what you have for your children protected? You know, Give me a call, and I'll give my business card." Any opportunity I have to talk to somebody, if you're within arm's reach, I will talk to you. I had to muster up the courage to do it. It's not easy, you know.
Well, I want to talk about that part too, because, and I honestly, I can't wait. Every week you have a new story, and I know there was a McDonald's situation that happened, and you did a signing. I can't wait till Sunday when I get to hear that story. But for now, I think the big thing that I think most of our listeners have a challenge with is that fear, overcoming the fear. How do you overcome the fear or the uh, insecurity to spark up a conversation with a stranger about your business? Do you have like one big tip that you'd give on that?
Yeah, firsthand, remember your value, what you're offering, what you do. As I mentioned earlier, we everything that is critical in life is going to involve a notary. So I'm invaluable. And remembering that I am invaluable and needed in almost anything is what first then they need my service. You see, I'm looking for people that need me, and I want to find those people that need me. They just need to find out who I am. And so the only way is to talk to them,
And
you know?
would you agree that because, especially in your case, and so many of our listeners are so passionate about what they do, they care about the signers, they care about the situation they in, they care about doing it right,
Mhm.
getting the training, understanding the laws around it, protecting, that line of protection that we provide, that it would almost be a disservice not to talk to people because
Exactly.
you never know who they're going to get if they just randomly call Google, right?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I mean, one of the things that I've learned so far is that I know I have a value. I know what I do is critically important. It affects you. And so my question to myself is, how do I affect you? How do I affect your business? And so forth. So I'm always thinking of that. So when I'm seeing somebody, I'm evaluating and saying, okay, how do I affect you? How would you need me? And so forth. So I'll have questions. I also give smiles because I've also realized that if I'm going to approach a lady, she needs to be comfortable. And so I'll give her a smile, and it's a professional smile. I don't want to give a smile that's misconstrued, but I'll give a smile, and then I'll ask questions. And I've learned to ask some questions. It says, you have some beautiful kids. My kids are grown now, and I don't see them, and I wish that they were as small as that anymore. But and then eventually I lead to the fact this is, and I've done everything I can think of to protect them if something should happen to me. Has that ever worried you?
Mm.
Have you ever considered that? And then it might lead to more conversation. If there's not enough time, I'll say, you know what? Let me have your email. I'm going to send you some information, no spam, just about protecting your family. And it doesn't cost anything. And I've learned a lot, and I'm sharing that. And they'll give me their emails.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I have my little book, by the way, that I
Love
carry.
your
I know
notebook.
yeah, my little notebook. Like 4 by 6, and it fits in my pocket. And I carry a pen, and many times I'll just give them the book and says, "Can you put your email there and your name and your phone number if you don't mind?" And they'll write it there, and then I'll go and I'll send something to them about what we were talking about.
Well, and one of the big things that you've chosen to focus on because it's clearly passion, you have a passion for it too, is legacy planning, estate planning, and things like that. So many of our listeners might think because you're starting so many conversations about that, that you help people with estate planning documents, but you don't, right? You're not a legal document preparer. You have
Mm-hmm.
a referral network. Can you talk about how you created that, why you create it, and how you make that happen?
Yeah, what I usually say, and it's in my emails many times, is I usually say, "Hey, I've established some really good relationship with attorneys and some companies that actually provide really cost-effective ways of planning for your future and doing this stuff, and because it can be very expensive, but I have a good list of people that are, excellent service that I've been working with them for some time, and I just want to send you that list, and you can feel comfortable to call them. And so for just if they should ask how you found them, just tell them Victor. And if there's somebody who does that, and then I normally send an email to the attorneys to alert them that they may get a call from this person, so
And
they'll know.
this
Hmm.
happens consistently for you, right? Referrals to
Yeah.
your attorneys.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
it circles back
Constantly.
to you for the signings a lot of times.
Exactly. Exactly. And if I'm going to see a client because they like, for example, uh, I had one client that I just went to see, and I have one at this evening as well. That is going to be a POA. I already know based on what she's needing when I get there today that I may need to mention that the POA is only going to help her, but with so much that she may need some other things. And so that if she finds that that's what she needs, let me suggest an attorney that is that she's really good and cost effective. And if you don't mind, I can also send her your name and email so that you guys can communicate. No obligation because she doesn't charge you for the initial consultation, but it may give you a chance to see that there may be some other stuff that you need. I'll always say, hey, I'm not an attorney, but if I've been at this for 30 years, I already see the pattern, and this is the pattern. You're usually going to need more than just this.
Yeah.
And, and I leave it like that. And people are appreciative. I had one guy who I told them that, and then tell them, hey, if you're going to go to the UPS, have them sign it and do it this way. But then when you're ready to do the next one, you need to call me because you can't fool around with that. And and he said, I appreciate your directness. He did call me back, you know. So I make sure that I tell everybody and ask questions, you know.
Yeah. Powerful. So many great lessons here. And I'll kind of shift gears just a little bit because now, Victor, we're approaching your 1 year anniversary of basically being an independent notary. Um, you've been a notary public for over 30 years, so you have lots of experience that way. But now you're independent, you're running your own business. I'm curious, what's your biggest pet peeve with the notary industry right now?
Um, oh, how easy it is to become a notary, and uh, there's no way to make sure that the person's commitment to to the industry is what it should be. You know, doing it the right way.
Hmm.
Um, and that many people become notaries, and then just once they have the license, they think that customers will come to them without realizing they need to do some extra work like marketing and so forth. So my pet peeve is that you can become a notary for just a couple of dollars, so to speak, and still know nothing about what you need to do and how to do it right. I
Hmm.
come across I've even had a POA, will and all of that from my mother at a critical period of time. I'm waiting for the day where I'm going to lose her because she's now end of life. But while I'm doing that, the notary was failing to do the most critical component of what a notary does. And it was frustrating to know this and know that it's the right way. And I had to figure out a way how to correct her, how to make sure she understands that this is how it should be done, but more importantly, how she can do it better for the future and make it profitable for herself.
Yeah.
So yeah, the my biggest pet peeve regarding notaries is don't know what they need to do. They get it, and that's it. They don't take the time to learn anything more. You
How
know.
do you think how do we build that reverence for this role that we play? Because the work we do clearly matters. It is critical even uh,
Mhm.
to to commerce, to fraud protection, identity protection. What do you think a notary could do? Even not that you have to solve all the industry problems, right? But what can a notary do to enhance their skills or take this more seriously than maybe they really are if they're listening to this?
Oh yeah, one thing. They need to get they first thing they need to get on HBN because they're going to be able to. There's a lot to learn from there, and go and take the courses from people that are proven in their industry. That are experts in what they are, and they are leaders. They really know their business. Laura, for example, that we call her the goat. Well,
Mhm.
I mean, even I get on her calls, and even though much of what gets asked and so forth, I already know, but I there's always still something I pick out from it. There's always something I can learn. So becoming a notary, you got to constantly be learning, kind of constantly be looking and understanding. Change, laws change, things like that, and always be learning, and get into a program that helps you stay up to date, like some of the associations, NNA, American Society of Notaries. Be part of that because they send out newsletters, articles and stuff like that and they have libraries in their websites that allow you to research things. Get to know the Texas law, for example, in my case. Carry it with you, have it with you. Carry Laura's book. See some of the books that you've even written. Why don't you read it, study it, write on it, do all of that?
There's a new organization called the American Guild of Notaries Public that's
Mhm.
working diligently to set a standard of excellence too. And I know you were a recent graduate there. What do you think of that mission and that experience?
Actually, I received an email. I'm proud of the fact that I've been listed as a professional in a level of professional for that guild, and I am so happy to have this because it's promoting education, it's promoting skills, and so forth, so that you, and it's not marketing, it's really skills as a notary, the very minimum requirement, but then more so to do the right thing, to protect yourself, to protect the clients, and so forth. So I love it. I am so happy about it. I am proud of the scope that it wants to get to, and see it. And then I just recently got an email asking me if I would like to help in educating people on it.
Right.
Um, and and so that actually touched me, because I say I do that nearly every day. I'm constantly doing that. And it says, why not? Can I expand myself? Even with my limits, is it something I can still do? How can I do it? So now I'm in the middle of thinking, how am I going to be able to do it? Then I realized, hey, an HPN, how would you call it, Zoom and so forth all the time.
All the
So
time.
that's an avenue and so forth. So I'm honored that I was, invited to see if I can do that. And this is, I have a passion for that. And so, so yeah, learning more and then being part of these organizations, especially that one, I'm going to promote it to no end, you know?
Yeah. I think it makes such a big difference because you're absolutely right. There's such a low bar of entry to become a notary public. And so I think our psychology is that we just discount and think, oh, it's so easy to get, it must not be that big of a deal. And I think together with organizations like the Guild and the trainers and the people who are working so hard to raise the bar, working with the state governments to increase it's not even education because sometimes the education is there. The states require education, but you might find this interesting, Victor, is because it blew my mind, is that the E&O insurance claims for notaries are higher in states that have mandated education. So education itself, or the way that it currently stands, isn't necessarily the problem, the state mandated education. It's understanding how to apply it to everyday situations. So I hope that
That is
together
wild.
we can work. Isn't it? It's just mind blowing to me. So Victor, this has been a phenomenal conversation, and I'll have one last question for you. For notaries who are listening, they're clearly passionate, but they're still struggling to make the phone ring and ding. What kind of advice do you have to go from zero, kind of where you were from that hospital bed last year, to building a business that makes them feel good about doing it, still giving them the flexibility, but also increasing their income?
I suppose commitment. If you're going to commit yourself to doing this business, make add it as part of your integrity to yourself. Add it, be committed to yourself to doing it, and saying, telling yourself, this is my promise to myself that I'm going to keep no matter what happens. If I
Mm,
commit myself to doing this, learn how to do it right, and stay at it even when it doesn't feel like it's working, because with time things accumulate. I just remembered, I love your illustration, the bamboo, how it grows for so long underground before it finally sprouts out. Well, I mean, that says it all there. I mean, commit yourself to this, commit to the daily dues, to what you need to do, that is the most effective way of doing what your business require, and do not stop. Keep at it. When you don't feel like doing it, do it. Reward yourself. When it's working, reward yourself. If it's not working, reward yourself once you went back to it and get it and worked on it anyway. You know, honor yourself. Give yourself grace, because you're gonna fall apart. You're gonna have problems. But your commitment, you must not let go. It's a promise to yourself. It's a lack of integrity if you're not keeping it, your commitment. And you're not going to develop any discipline either. If you're not committed and doing what you're committed to, you're not developing any discipline to keep doing it. So it's like all in hand. So commit yourself to it and give yourself time, like let's say a year, let's say, and see what your results will be in a year. I can't wait to see what my next quarter is going to be, because I'm going to be already a year with HPN. I'm already marketing a year. I can't I get excited. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night. I can't believe it. I'm going to have, how many appointments I'm going to have. I get excited because I've been at it a year. I've been scraping my knees. I've been committed to it. Let me see the rewards. As the
Mhm.
rewards come in, savor it, enjoy it, you know. So commit yourself and don't give up, and just give yourself time, a year, 2 years. It may take 2 years, so commit yourself for 2 years and see what happens. You know.
Excellent advice, Victor. Thank you so much. And I love that you talked about commitment and keeping promises to yourself because there's no better way to build confidence than to do the things that you told yourself that you would do each day. And I think the daily do's and the structure that we provide helps that. And it's just, it warms my heart as a coach and as a human being to see your progress and your journey. And I too cannot wait to see what your next quarter looks like as well. So thank you so much for being here on the Sign and Thrive podcast. Guys, if you are ready for this level of commitment, if you are hungry, and when I say hungry, I mean you want to grow a business. If you're in that phase or that season of your business where you want to see income, you want to see impact on other people, it's time to get busy. And it's not glamorous. It is not parades and applause. The work that it takes to build this business happens behind the scenes in the dark when nobody else is watching. And it is absolutely worth it. And it will absolutely work. Might take a little longer than we all want it to, but it will absolutely work. And that is the work we do inside High Performance Notary on the school platform. It is 100% free to join. Just go to school.com, and that's spelled SKOOL.com/notary. And of course, I have the links down in the show notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, it's down below. Or you can go to notarycoach.com. It's all over the place on there too. It's very easy to find. Guys, join us, get in, dip your toes in. See what it's all about. See if you can handle this level of commitment. I guarantee you can if you want it. Just like Victor said, commit to it. Just show up and start participating, engaging in the community, share your daily big three, start to see what the daily dues are. You can start picking up on that. And if you get really excited, upgrade to VIP and take this thing to a whole other level and hang out with me and Victor and so many others several times during the week and month to help plan out your greatest year ever. We're here for it. Victor, again, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate your time and your energy. I know that's very valuable to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you for honoring me and having me with you on this. I appreciate it. Thank you.
My
And I
pleasure.
thank you for everything you do for us, by the way. I don't say it enough. So thank you for everything you do for us. Thank you.
The pleasure is mine.